Hello, and welcome to Stop Let's Team Up, episode 118, Project Pegasus, Part 1. So, folks, I'm going to be covering issues 42 and 43 of Marvel 2-in-1. You all had selected the Project Pegasus by poll a long time ago, months ago. Just so much has come on a couple months ago. I've decided not to do what I consider the two parts. So, Project Pegasus was introduced in a two-part 2-in-1, 42 and 43, and then in the big 6-part story later, starting in issue 53 and running through issue 58. So I'm going to give you a little history on my take on Project Pegasus before we get into it. You've heard me talk throughout the podcast that Marvel 2-in-1 was one of my favorite team-up books. It was the first comic collection I ever completed a run of. It was at about 50 when that happened. The Project Pegasus story, the 6-parter, 50 through 58, is something I probably read 100 times. I used to trace. I was a terrible artist, and I had this fixation with the faces in the corner boxes, so I traced them, and I traced other things and tried to draw stuff. So our copies of these were well worn on the front because I loved the covers, and this is when I was discovering two of my favorite comic artists in that story, which is George Perez and John Byrne. But I'll go more into that when I cover that one. But that's a really important story for me. So much that when I was, during the pandemic, I bought the two hardcovers they're called Thing, but they're really 2-in-1s. It's this one and the Serpent Crown Affair hardcover. But now they've started to put out now they've started to put out the epics, and the third one's coming out, and it will butt up right against, it'll go all the way it'll end at 52. Right before the Project Pegasus. But these two issues, 42 and 43, which introduces this facility and its place in Marvel mythos. It is expanded, it is gone, it is given characters more life or made them come to the forefront. I think a lot of us, we love the team-up books because you got to see some of the B, C, and D-listers, and Marvel and DC did team-up books for rare characters just to keep their copyright. They say their trademark alive because you have to maintain a trademark. So some of it's that. But I think the four biggie team-ups, Team Up 2-in-1, DC Comics Presents, and Brave and the Bold, did so much else. So much more. And I think 2-in-1 had its own unique groove with these longer arcs. Spidey would have 2-parters, but I think there's something about 2-in-1 and the writing of the two gentlemen who are mostly involved with these stories. Ralph Macchio, not Karate Kid, but editor and Marvel writer extraordinaire. I say that I have read a lot of his stuff, or a good chunk, but I don't really. He's not an artist or writer I followed. Grunwald was, because I love Suicide Squad. His cap is my cap in a lot of ways, but these are really good. These 8 issues are incredible. They're some of the best of this, because sometimes these, I've done some 2-in-1s that I haven't, I've talked to you about are a little rough or a little kiddie-ish, a little cartoony. Sometimes they're just doing one and done fun stories, which is great, and a lot of them were really fun. But these were a little more. So that's why I wanted to do them. And I'm splitting it up because being solo, I didn't want to talk for 8 issues solo. I think I would get in a rut and just be giving you some pertinent data and nothing more than that. So we're going to get started with the pertinent data for issues 42 and 43. We will do these one issues at a time to make it easier on all of us. So let's go to the fandom wiki on the interwebs, because that's the best place for these. I wish I haven't tried Grand Comic Book Database in a while. I need to try. I do like this. These are pretty concise, and in the Marvel one, they at least give you the release date. So we'll start with that. This was released on May 2nd. It's Marvel 2-in-1 number 42 again. Released on May 2nd to 1978. Cover date August 1978. It has a George Perez and Terry Austin cover, which is Chef Kiss. It is a gloved hand holding the cosmic cube, and you see Cap and the Thing fighting Wondar, Ben Grimm's Ward, in a way, he's an alien who doesn't have memories. He's very childlike, and Ben has he's taken stewardship of his care, and he's at the Project Pegasus, and the villain, which is Jude, the Anthropic Man, and I'll give you a little background here, and we get to meet Thomas Leiter, who will come in into play in a big way. Again, this is Ben Grimm and his co-star is Captain America, Steve Rogers. This was written by Ralph Macchio, pencils by Slammin Sal Buscema, inks by Alfredo Alcala and Sam Granger, colorist Nel Yomtov, letterer Joseph Rosen, editors Roger Stern and Jim Scalcrip. We have the Cult of Entropy. We have Victorious, who is just one of the cult. I'm not as familiar with some of this. This is a Man-Thing. It's a Man-Thing thing. Jude, the Anthropic Man, he is really not known to me, but because he is a Man-Thing villain. And I'm pulling up that now because I wanted to kind of get his first appearance for you. His first appearance was Giant Size Man-Thing #1. Of course it was. That's very cool. I like that. I love saying Giant Size Man-Thing. I'm going to get the Marvel Giant Size Omnibus just so I can get all the ones that I'd never read as a kid. I'm looking forward to it. So this is the first appearance of Project Pegasus. It is a lab set in the Adirondack Mountains, and it's an energy research facility. So here's the synopsis from Fandom Wiki. Learning that Wondar has been taken to Project Pegasus, Ben breaks into and tries to free him. However, Captain America is there to calm Ben down and convince him to allow the scientists there to experiment on Wondar, as they believe his unique powers may help them unlock the secrets behind the cosmic cube. Jeez, Cap, bad friend. After some initial opposition from Wondar himself, Ben talks the alien man-boy, I would say man-child, sorry, man-boy is kind of creepy, into doing what the Project Pegasus scientists ask of him. However, Project Pegasus has been infiltrated by Victorious of the Cult of Entropy. When the moment presents itself, Victorious distracts the heroes by charging Wondar with too much power from the cosmic cube, and then steals the cube himself. Victorious transports himself to the Florida Everglades, where his fellow cultists prepare for the arrival of Jude, the Anthropic Man, and continue to worship the original leader, Yagzan. When Ben and Captain track them down the Anthropus, they arrive too late to stop them from using the cosmic cube to bring Jude, the Anthropic Man. Little thing, if you haven't known, Wondar was around for a while, and he becomes a different name at the end of the other Project Pegasus. He first appeared in Marvel 2-in-1, number 2 through 4, where he turned over the man-child to Namorita's care, but he was last seen in Baltimore with Namorita and a friend, Annie Christian, in Ms. Marvel 15. Ben remembers Thomas Leitner, who turned into Black Sun in Marvel 2-in-1-21, causing him cellular decay to defeat. Ben's got Thor's alter ego to Don Blake to save Leitner's life in issues 22 and 23, and as revealed in 53, Leitner was a spy for Roxxon and Judy Corporation. I'm just going to read. I like these trivia. These are the continuity news. Cap mentions he knows S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Cosmic Cube. Of course he does, because you kept messing with it. Captain America mentions the uniform of Mr. Fantastic designed for Wondar's powers, which he did in 3, because, reads a big haberdasher when it comes to unstable molecules. So let's kind of go through this first issue real quick. One, it's Sal Buscema, and it's always nice. And Sam Granger is he's an okay inker, and you can tell what he inked, and you can tell what Alfredo Alcala inked. But I think it works. I was talking to my buddy, Ken, you've heard me talk about, and I was talking about the difference between Sal's cap in this and Sal's cap in Captain America, like the Englehart. I'm getting back to, I'm going to reread the Englehart stuff, which I read last year, because I'm doing a read-through from the beginning, and I don't want to skip ahead. I'm going to keep reading, even though I've read a bunch of it in the last 12 months. But there's a difference between this stuff and the cap stuff. And it's one the inking. He's got Joe Sinnott. and other people in Captain America, but it's a little more like John and a little less like Sal. I mean, it's still Sal, but it's a little more. I think this is a little funner, a little more cartoony. This is more what we'll see later in Rom and other things. And I mean that with a lot of love, because you guys know I just love everything Sal does. He understands what he's doing. He's not reinventing the wheel. He's got dynamic action. I just think he's one of the most underrated greats. I think he's a great, GOAT. But what I like about this is it starts with Ben busting through a door of Project Pegasus. So we don't even see the outside of it. It's just, we don't know what it looks like or anything. And these guys in coveralls, they look like cleaning guys, but Cap's there. And then Cap and Ben fight for a couple pages, and then they have their little talk. And they go deeper inside. And that's when they meet Leitner. He's already looking shifty. There's a panel where he's looking shifty. They bring him Wonder, and they've got him strapped up. It's like, Jesus, man, this is so fucked up. They've got this guy. He's the body of a man, but the brain of like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. And he's so glad to see Ben. He's so scared that he breaks his bonds because he's super strong. And once he sees Ben, he gives him a big hug. And Ben Grimm is one of my favorite characters of all time. And I think I will do, after this, I think I may post the top 10 favorite superheroes of all time. Because Ben has to be in it. Because Ben Grimm is a real person. He's, Ralph Macchio, if you write Ben correctly, he's just he just is a good guy. He's just a good guy. He's a little, he's a little stereotypical. He's a little macho for his own good because he is a fighter pilot and a hero, and he's got a lot of machismo. But he's also a gentle soul. He doesn't like to see kids cry. He really feels for everybody. He does. He is a nurturer. He's a very paternal person. It's that perfect uncle to a lot of people. And I love that. And I think they got people when they were writing Marvel 2-in-1, they're not straying far from what Stan did, Jerry did, Roy did, Len Wein did, Archie Goodwin, all of them, John Byrne, that Ben he's a good guy. And I like that. So while he's doing that and they start the test is when the bad guy, who is really Victorious in disguise, uses the energy, and then yes, he's not teleported, but he re-inhabits a skeleton. It's really a cool thing, and Sal really does it. And they're Sal's basic red hooded bad guys. They use it. Looks like a Doctor Who device. It's put together. It's thing tracking energy, and they're in the swamp where Man-Thing lives, and they meet the Anthropic Man. But and there's our cliffhanger. I know only the Anthropic Man and Despair and all that from Man-Thing crossing over with other books, such as this and Howard the Duck. But Man-Thing has had a resurgence in fandom. I mean, they're horror comic guys love them, and I'm not them. I like horror comics when I like them. I'm a big fan of Marvel Tomb of Dracula, but I like Man-Thing. I think he's a great character, and I've learned to appreciate him more over the years. But it's basically it's a great cliffhanger. It's a 1-page cliffhanger. I've been reading these. Some of these the cliffhangers aren't as exciting, but it's a nice panel. But that first issue is just really. It's solid Bronze Age superhero frickin' fun. And if you love Cap and Cap and Thing, it's a great story. Let's move on to 43 because more to say about that. Okay, 43 was published June 13th, 1978, cover dated 1978. It has a John Byrne, Walt Simonson inked cover, which has Victorious in the Cosmic Cube, and it has Cap, Man-Thing, and the Thing fighting Victorious. We have Jude the Anthropic Man in the background. Kazar is mentioned in this. I don't know why. It was written by Ralph Macchio, pencils by John Byrne. It doesn't list inkers. It says John Byrne and friends. I'm assuming he inked it himself. It looks like he inked it himself. Phil Rachelson, colorist. Bruce Patterson, a inker, but as letterer, and Roger Stern is the editor. The synopsis from Marvel Fandom Wiki is: having tracked down the cult of entropy to recover the cosmic cube, Ben Grimm and Captain America arrive to find that the cult has used it to bring to life their god, Jude the Anthropic Man. The cult's leader, Victorious, explains how he came to become a member of the cult and how they used the cosmic cube to turn the remains of their dead leader, Yagzan, into Jude to bring about an idea of universal entropy. When Ben and Cap try to take back the cosmic cube, it leads them to battling Victorious one-on-one as Jude watches, waiting to judge on humanity's fate. However, Jude isn't the only one watching, as the battle has also attracted the attention of the Man-Thing. As the struggle continues, the Man-Thing takes hold of the cosmic cube. When Victorious asks Jude to end the battle, the Anthropic Man tries to convince Captain America to give in to entropy. Cap almost does give in. However, the Thing stops him and enters into Jude himself. Instead of being killed, Ben finds that he has been restored to his human form. When Jude begins to believe that mankind is not ready to receive his gift of entropy, decides to leave, but to take Victorious with him. As Victorious grapples with Man-Thing to get hold of the cosmic cube, Jude touches Victorious. There is a flash of light, and Jude and Victorious have been transformed to a crystal structure. Recovering the cosmic cube, Ben and Captain America return to Project Pegasus. The Man-Thing, however, reconstitutes himself and approaches the crystal. The Muck Monster begins to change into a human form as it gets closer to the crystal and then decides to shamble away. So let's talk. Well, I want to talk about the cover. It's a great action one. Cap's getting choked out by Victorious. There's I can see the Simonson now and some of the energy and stuff. I never noticed it. Oh, and its signature. You know what? Oh my God, I'm an idiot. See Burns on one side of the ISBN number and then Simonson on the other. It's a great cover. All right, so this one starts with a great splash page. It's kind of Burns' take on what happened at the end of the last issue. It's great. I mean, it's a great page. I like that the credits is a scroll unrolling. It's got their names on it. It says Byrne and Friends, but I really think maybe it is. I don't know. It's not in. No one has it. You know, and the title is it's Marvel 2 and the Man-Thing are on the cover. Their heads are in the corner boxes. But I love the way Byrne draws the Thing, and I love the way Byrne draws Cap. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Byrne when we get to the end. But it's also, there's a huge shift from his style to Sal's style. And we get a little flashback to the cultist and how he became, he was tried to create super soldier again. He worked for AIM. He battled S.H.I.E.L.D. There was a blast, and all of a sudden he had been reborn. He was full of energy, and he took the name Victorious. He battled Kazar, and then he learned about the cult of entropy in Marvel. Giant Size Man-Thing #1. There are some definite panels that are very Buscema-esque. If you're following along, folks, it's on page 3. There's a picture where Kazar's getting punched by Victorious, and it's very Buscema. And on the page before that, there's some action. It looks very like Sal. I don't mean he's doing it on purpose, or just how. I mean, he'd have been reading Sal's comics coming up too, and John's. And then we get the flashback to when they summoned him. What happened? We didn't see the skeleton turn into the Jude. We do see it in this. And then they're just two people, hanging out a man and a woman hanging out in the swamp making out, of course. And they are disintegrated and turned to dust. So entropy, because entropy is, when things just fall apart. And then Ben charges, and he gets zapped by the cosmic cube. And that's when Victorious and Cap get into a fist fight. And it's really good action. Byrne can draw Cap's robe things. And we get to see the Man-Thing comes creeping in. Cap gets the tar kicked out of him. And he's battling for a few pages. Ben's coming up. He's been ducked in the mud. He sees the Man-Thing. Has he met the Man-Thing? Yeah, he's met the Man-Thing. I've already covered what me and Billy talked about Man-Thing a while back. But Man-Thing touches the cube. But Entropy is asked. Well, Man-Thing is holding the cube. Something's happening to him, and at that point, Jude goes, "Victorious, let me end this futile affair, that we may proceed as intended." "Yes, yes, by all means, end his meaningless life. Our battle has solved nothing. Rejoice, Captain. Your days of agony are over. Life's pain and sorrow will retreat before the endless emptiness I offer. Come." And Cap's, "No, I mustn't look. Yes, I see you're right. Enter now the unmanifest, all that is my very existence." And then Thing pulls him away, throws him out of harm's way, and then he's pulled into Jude, but it doesn't kill him. He becomes human again, and it's great because it's a little confusing. It's like he doesn't kill him; he just turns him back, and even Jude doesn't know why it's happened. He's like, "Listen, Jude, I know life ain't a picnic, but it's still the best game in town. You can't just go out handing out paradise, whatever you think it is. Still, it's got to be earned." And Entropy's, "You wound me. I did not desire your happiness." Then Victorious and him start fighting. Ben gets card kicked out. Victorious grabs the cosmic cube from Man-Thing, and the creature won't let go. So Jude goes, "Victorious, life yet prevails in this realm. I sense that my coming was ill-timed. Men must seek me of their own volition. When you finally understand Entropy as you do, then you shall feel my embrace. Come now, truth awaits you." And Jude touches him, and they zap away. Ben's turned back into the Thing. Entropy, Jude, and Victorious are crystal. And Cap and Ben walk out thinking Man-Thing's dead, but he reforms. He touches the crystal, it turns his hand human, and he walks away. And then next issue will be Hercules. So that's the synopsis. All right, so let me start off and talk about John Byrne. Huge John Byrne fan. And this is when he's learning. I mean, I think he may be on X-Men by this point, or he's gonna be. He's definitely done he's done some of his FF, which is good. Him and Sinnott look great. They look great together when they work together. This isn't Sinnott. This is him and Simonson, or him and himself. But he's one of my favorite comic artists at the time, because one, I was coming up when this stuff was coming out. Him and Perez are my top. Perez is above him. There are others between them. But he's so important to comics in the late 70s and into the 80s. He's one of those generational creators who is incredibly popular. Everything he touches, he does. His Avengers do well, even though it's not he doesn't got some of the best writing when he's doing that. His F is good with Marv. I think it's good. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I've been talking about this as we've been covering FF. I really think kind of when between Stan and Jack and John Byrne by himself, a lot of people, I don't think anybody's really trying to reinvent the wheel. I think you have good runs. I think Marv does some good. I think Jerry Conway does some good. I think Roy does some good. But I don't think they're ever as great. And I'm saying that ever as great as Stan and Jack and John Byrne on FF. And I will say the next great are like Wade and Waringo, or the Tom DeFalco, Paul Ryan era, because I think that's really underrated. But that's me. But those are the two book ones. And the Byrne, we don't have X-Men we have today without Claremont Byrne. I think Byrne had some good ideas. He leaned into his nostalgia a great deal with FF, but he also made it show how different superhero comics had changed since the 60s. I mean, I'm reading FF from 1 through for the first time ever in my life, and I'm seeing where that change happens during Stan and Jack, where they realize, our readership's a little older, so we're going to be a little more complex. I don't want to say mature, but complex. So I think that he takes it, and it's just this is his early stuff, and this is some of the best stuff. It's so great, man. It's like I've covered Marvel Team Up where Captain Britain, it's by him. His best. He did really amazing stuff in Marvel 2-in-1 and Marvel Team Up, and it allowed him. I get it. He knew the universe, but it really helped him learn it and learn it better. And he took it on, and you could see it in his FF, and you can see it is when he takes over writing the Thing when 2-in-1 ends, which I was really upset about as a kid, or as a young. I was an adult when it ended, probably. Yeah, I was an adult when it ended. But what came from it, that Thing solo series, was amazing. Was amazing. I think the Thing, and that's because of Byrne. I think Byrne's really good. I'm a big fan of his DC stuff. I'm not, I've said this. I like Crisis. I kind of like one of my favorite eras of DC is post-Crisis. I think Byrne brought a lot to Superman that was great. I think he misses sometimes. I don't think it's as good as his FF is, but it does lead to the Triangle here. It leads to him working with Wolfman and Ordway on the other books. And as they expand titles and bring other people on, and he goes out to do other things, and he does some of his own creator owns. He has some success, he has some failures. I'm a huge fan of his Generations book, Superman Batman Generations. I think that's amazing. I do think the Marvel Hidden Years, I really like that. Really, really like that. It was a lot of fun. It was fan wanky, but it was fun. But this is his early stuff, and I think it's great. I think this is a great two-parter. This is. A lot of Marvel 2-in-1s are kind of throwaways, and so are team up books. They're kind of one and dones, but this is neat, and it's such a. I really wanted to do it separate than I would do the main part of Project Pegasus, the big arc, the one that's most famous, because that's just so. That I really want to read a couple more times. One, because I just want to read it a couple more times. But I think I want to kind of focus in it. I do want to talk about a couple pop culture connections to this. Me and Billy from Magazines and Monsters and World on Fire have been talking about a movie, and it is called The Andromeda Strain. And we haven't recorded it. I've watched it with my wife. We're almost to the end. But, it's been crazy around here. Folks, if you don't know, Richmond, I live in Richmond, Virginia, and we lost water. We had some snow, which caused some water issues, which caused a basement to flood in our water treatment plant, and we lost potable, drinkable water for 7 days. I work in a huge hospital, Virginia. I work for VCU Health, very proud of it. As we come out the other end of this, I'm very proud of who I work for. My boss is the head of emergency management. I think her leadership, and everybody just did a great job. I don't normally talk about work, except it's kicking my ass. But, it was a big deal was going on here, and it was really kind of rough. So I kind of got a little backed up in doing stuff because it was not a lot of sleep, a lot of extra hours. It was just crazy. But that's it. I kind of got behind on stuff, and that's kind of why I want to kind of break this up. I really want to spend more time doing some more homework on that back six. Because Kirby just said do it. Just do it all as one thing. And I think he meant kind of, I don't know, I'm not going to put words in Kirby's mouth, but maybe the six-parter. But I really do, you need the first parter because Wondar is involved in it. It's why they're there. But I want to talk about the base, what it's based on. It's based on, there's a film called The Andromeda Strain, like I mentioned earlier. I hope I've been editing as we go. So you know me, I'm sloppy. But it's an Andromeda Strain, which is a Robert Wise film, based on the Michael Crichton of many things, 1969 novel, which is a great novel. I read it. I came to it, excuse me for repeating myself, I came to it via the novel, via the movie, which I saw on, you've heard me talk about, I grew up outside of D.C. as a kid, pre-cable, and you would see certain movies over and over again, and this was one I saw, and it was definitely a Cold War, but it's about a satellite taken up into orbit, and it comes down and brings back a bug. And it's great. The movie's by Robert Wise, editor of Citizen Kane, won Best Picture for West Side Story and Sound of Music. Directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He's an incredible director. This is right up this thoughtful, direct, thrilling, because it's no big stars in this. I mean, the cast is Arthur Hill, James Olsen, Kate Reed, David Wayne, Paula Kelly, George Mitchell. I recognize all of them. I couldn't put a name to them except David Wayne, who I knew the more. It came out in 1972. The plot is basically that these scientists are brought because the satellites come back and something bad's happened. It's brought a bug with them, and it's about them breaking it down. It's very much a procedural in a lot of ways, but I don't know if you'd make a movie this dry. I must say dry. I don't mean that in a bad way, but the people aren't beautiful. They're not having fight scenes. They're not glistening in sweat. They are scientists. They look like scientists and doctors. And they are trying to save everybody's lives. It's a really, really good movie. And I can't wait to talk about it with Billy. But definitely Andromeda Strain had something on the secret base, the super thing. I think they get more from this than they do something from Buck Rogers or Star Trek or some other science fiction novel. I think they get a lot of it from that movie Andromeda Strain, the different levels. And we'll see that because we get a map. I love a good cutaway of Project Pegasus in the next story. But I would recommend you check out Andromeda Strain. Both the novel, honest to God, read the novel, man. It freaked me the fuck out. And the movie. Both great. And there was a TV remake with Ricky Schroeder playing, and Benjamin Bratt was in it. It was a little more militaristic involved. There was some soldiers involved, but it's not a bad modernization of it because it's set in when it's set, which is probably the 90s or early 2000s. It was on A&E, and it was pretty good. I really liked it. And this is one of those movies that if I had to pick of Robert Wise movies that I wanted you to watch, this is it. Not Star Trek, not Sound of Music, not West Side Story. I would say watch this because I think it's that freaking good, and it is a perfectly good film. All right, folks, I'm going to kind of move on. Recommendations for this week. Please check out Kirby's. If you haven't already listened to him, listen to his Captain Carrot episodes. He is great. They're so much fun, and I appreciate him helping me out. He's helping me out in ways you can't imagine. Just once by being like my super regular guest and a good friend, turning into a good friend, and that he said, "Hey, I know you can't keep up. How about we'll do these? You'll fill them in." And he's right. I can't. I work as this. I'm behind on Doctor Who, Gallifrey's Most Wanted. If you're waiting for some of those, I've got 2 in the can. I got 1 being put together by someone else to help me out. It's finding time, find that balance with my new job. On the outside of the emergencies, which we've had a lot. It's winter, snowstorms this town. You see a snowflake, blah. So I can't keep up. I want to give a recommendation this week. I've been gushing about the Absolute stuff a little bit and everything DC's doing. I finally got a chance to sit down and read the 3 Absolute Wonder Womans. I read them this morning, read them back to back. They are absolutely amazing. Kelly Thompson's scripts are wonderful. I need to read her Captain Marvel. I need to go and read more of her stuff. I have not read enough. This blew me away. The art is amazing. And that art is by Hayden Sherman, who I'm not familiar. I'm a little, I read too many superhero comic books, and I'm talking about one. But it's just stunning. It's stunning. I'm going to read the Superman tonight. That'll get me caught up on that, and I'm going to read the most recent 2 Absolute Batmans. I'm really digging it. I think I'm going to get everything. I'm going to cut some other books back. I'm really enjoying it. Jeff Lemire is doing Flash. I'm excited about that. And Al Ewing and Javier Rodriguez are doing Martian Manhunter, and it's going to blow my mind. I'm so excited. All right, so that's it for this week. Next week you will get Project Pegasus Part 2, where I cover the big 6-part Byrne, Perez, Grunwald, Macchio masterpiece. But until then, folks, hey, be safe, be smart. Please be kind to one another. And read some comics. Read some team-ups.